A brilliant evening as well for England's women's team. Obviously defeating Spain on penalty. Sarina Wiegman getting it done. Again, Chloe Kelly, I think the hero again, although off the bench, which I don't know if it's good management, luck, fortune. But Sarina Wiegman gets it done again, doesn't she?
It is. Yeah, it is. It's you need a little bit of luck somewhere along the way, and I think England got it at different stages during the tournament. But even so, they've gone and they've won it. They've won it. And Wiegman has been fantastic. Absolutely. Strange enough, I watched the first half in a little restaurant cum bar, not too far from where I live, and then the second half, I raced out at half time to get the second half. It was only about 15 minutes away from my house, and it was interesting. And I was listening to talkSPORT's half time, and I have to say, she from the resident pundits, she being Wiegman, was getting a lot of stick.
Yeah,
for decisions that James wasn't fit. She had to come off, and it's interesting. And then she goes and wins the tournament, and everything is vindicated. So she's absolutely right.
You'll notice that Martin has a sensitivity factor to all pundits that criticise managers.
Oh, is that what it is, Martin? Didn't she deserve the critique? I mean, she won
the tournament.
What?
She won.
That's right.
Yeah, that's all you know.
No, absolutely. Yeah. She won the tournament, and it's an interesting one. Here was the point I thought that they might think about. Well, some of them were saying about 5 or 6 players hadn't got their game time. They were sitting on the bench and hadn't been used, hadn't got their game time because they had really great seasons. But my point was, this was not the opening game against France. This was the final, of which England were in. Yeah. And at half time, even though they were being outplayed in terms of possession, they're still well in the game. And these are the point. So I do have an issue with that there, because
well.
this is the whole point. Wiegman has let me talk about James' situation. I'm sure that she had a look at it. James is a great player.
Not injured.
Hold on, great players can win the game. She would have spoken to the physiotherapist. She would have spoken to the medical team. She would have spoken to the lady herself and said, "Listen, are you all right?" And then she'll have a thought in her head: can she last a certain length of time? Anybody can pick up the injury, but it was it's the Monday morning quarterback syndrome. It is really. She should never have started the game. She shouldn't have done this. She shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry. The manager has to make these decisions, and she made it, and she's come up big. And that's the great thing. She's come up big.
I think the narrative is set by the idea that they didn't use Chloe Kelly and Michelle Maniang the way that people thought they should. And I'm with him to some extent. It always fascinates me. It's one thing creating content for media broadcasts. It's another thing offering up opinions as if they're facts. Yeah. None of these guys that offer opinions have ever walked in a manager's shoes, know what it's like to be a manager. There's a few exceptions. He's a manager, so he can talk to it more articulately than most people. Well, I listen to people. I remember listening to Robbie Savage years ago, with due respect to Robbie, making observations about Pep Guardiola, and I'm thinking, pack it in. I know he's got a big job now, Robbie, but the fact of the matter is, get a hold of yourselves. There's a balancing act between having a constructive opinion and a bit of objective observations and filling content, and literally going after managers that have forgotten more than you'll ever know. And I find it sometimes a bit strange.
Yeah, it is back-to-back tournaments for Sarina Wiegman as well now. Obviously got England to the final of the World Cup as well. So
and one with the Netherlands as well too.
And one with the Netherlands, as you say, back in 2019.
It's a fantastic record.
Yeah, it is
really is fantastic.
I mean, they did ride their luck, but as he will tell you, there's component parts, like people say, the harder you work, the luckier you become, right? The fact of the matter is the Italians must be biting themselves off at the wrist because they should have had that job done. The Swedes the same, but they didn't.
Yeah,
and the winners are England. I mean, obviously some of those penalties were pretty shocking. Qualify as passes rather than penalties. But the fact of the matter is, you win the game, you win the game.
Yeah, Chloe Kelly, the story of this tournament, I guess, not just the fact that she scored the winning penalty, but coming off the bench as well. What's interesting, and we're going to hear from her agent now, Michael Jarman. This is a Chloe Kelly that might not have been playing football last year. Let's hear from Michael Jarman and what brought Kelly back to football.
Without going into the personal issues of it, she never wanted to leave Man City. The whole point of it was that she was happy to stay at the club, but that her position had become untenable. And so she needed a way out. And with the Euros fast approaching, not even sitting on the bench in some instances, but basically just not playing any football for the next 4 to 5 months, especially with Sarina saying that she needs minutes, was for her a situation that she couldn't. She had to push, and she had to push now to give herself the best opportunity to go out and perform.
That's Michael Jarman there, the agent of Chloe Kelly, someone that you know very
I spoke
well.
to Michael because there were challenges for Chloe. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I don't think she was having a happy time at Manchester City, and there was an opportunity to go to Man United, and I think that was stopped. And we had a chat about what she should and shouldn't do. Play is what she should do, and that's what she did. She went out on loan and got herself into the European Championships. And I watched her during the various games during the tournament. I mean, I have to say, I have not watched inordinate amounts of women's football over the years because I get a bit tired of being shrieked at about how much of a responsibility it is for men's game to patronise the women's game. But notwithstanding, I've watched this tournament, and she's been a shining light in terms of the way that she looks as a footballer. With respect, she can hit a ball like a footballer at times.
She's good. No.
She can dribble past players, and she's got a yard of pace, and she takes people on. And she changes games. She definitely changes games. Now, I know there's an argument to start her. No problem. Find a space for her in the side. But at the end of it all, if she is actually happy to think, this is the role I want, I can do. I'm comfortable doing it. I'm not going to cause a ruckus here by saying I should be starting in the side. She has changed games. She has. Almost immediately as well, too, getting into
the other
matches.
girl as well, Michelle, that comes on. I mean, I also think that it's an interesting evolution in the women's game where the idea that they're very happy with what they've got. They're very happy with the manner in which they play. Now, polar opposite would be the men's game, with you're sat there with not being played and the nation's crying for you to be on. What would be seeing from the little islands in their own right of the men's football team that I should be playing. I should be starting. I'm unhappy with this and I'm unhappy with that. It'll change, I suspect. The more money comes into the game, the more successful they become, the more difficult they might become to manage. But right now, the women's game, as much as it might not be the division I want to make in the conversation, puts the men's game at international level to a little bit of shame, doesn't it?
It does. The Spanish press, by the way, are not happy with Chloe Kelly. They've come out and said she's out of order for celebrating the way she did in front of the Spanish fans.
I lived in Spain, and I've been in Spain when they've won European Championships and other competitions, and they are the worst winners.
She did go right to them, though. She went straight to them.
So what? So what? Get on with it. The Spanish are the worst when it comes to winning something. Their moniker is the land of envy, and let's be clear, they aren't gracious winners. So we'll have our wins where we take them, and they can get on with our celebrations.
All right, let's hear from the manager, Sarina Wiegman, who spoke about the chaotic tournament. You said it. Maybe Italy should have knocked them out. Sweden maybe should have knocked them out as well, but they didn't. This is what Sarina Wiegman had to say after the game.
I must admit that I always think this is the most chaotic and ridiculous tournament we have played. And every time we could come back, because in quarterfinal, semi-final, now in the final we came behind. But this, of course, we have players that have talent. And the togetherness of this team is really, really incredible. But also the belief that we can come back and that the players say we can win by any means. And we just never, ever give up. And today, too, of course, we had moments that we really had to fight to keep the ball out of our own net.
Sarina Wiegman there speaking to the press after winning another major tournament with England. Does she stay on? I mean, there was conversations pre-tournament about her leaving. And maybe some people have even saying going into the men's game.
Well,
Does she stay on with England?
She's got a contract of 2027, and indications from what I understand is that she'll be honouring her contract. And there was debates about if they won the tournament, they didn't win the tournament, would she stay, would she not? She's got a World Cup to win.
Yeah.
That's evaded her.
Yeah.
So, with England, so she's got a World Cup to go and win, and the USA will be in that. And we know that the USA are very forceful in the women's game. So I would imagine that she stays. Yeah.
What does this mean for the growth of female football? Obviously, look, it's been discussed sort of at length before, but again, now this is back-to-back tournaments. There are superstars emerging. Chloe Kelly.
At what level? Domestic or international?
Domestically. Well, in terms of the growth of the WSL.
That's for the commercial sponsors to start stepping up and paying more money, because the thing about the women's football is there's not enough money going into it, and there's complaints about where the money goes. But that's on the commercial broadcasters. The BBC, virtue signaling the way to everything, put some more money into women's football, pay more for the rights.
Yeah. If you believe it, back it.
Well, exactly. And also, the fixtures and the domestic fixtures, they need bigger attendances. I mean, I see the atmosphere. I saw the kids and the environments and the families that are there, and the arguments that are being raised about women's football now being able to have alcohol in the stands because there's a different dynamic, and they're making that particular claim and opportunity. We'll see how it spikes the domestic leagues and how their attendances are, because you've got the one end of the spectrum, which is Arsenal and Chelsea and their levels, and then you get further down the pyramid and
it drops off drastically, doesn't it?
Dramatically. Yeah. And that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's been helped as well too by the Champions League. I think that was quite strong as well too, and Arsenal's fight back as well too. So, but I agree with Simon. Domestically, if you're looking outside the big 2 or 3 sides in the competition, you have to be looking at the stadiums that they're playing in, the crowds that are coming to the game. I think all of that there will definitely improve. And it can only improve, really, with England's success.
Do the clubs of those sides, the ones that are struggling, that maybe aren't doing the numbers, need to invest a bit more in their female side of the game?
Well, that's an argument.
No, because they don't bring the money in.
Well, that's
What's
an argument. The argument that can rage is what should the clubs do and how they should do it. I think they subsidise tickets. I think there's an argument about where they play at times, but what do you want to do? You want to play in a massive stadium that you don't fill with no atmosphere, or in a smaller stadium that you can fill. I think it's incumbent upon these so-called broadcasters that will tell us what they support, and they're all about the DEI initiatives. Okay, well, come on then. Let's say you put some more money into the game, because I get quite irritated when I listen to some of the pundits like Karen Carney come up with some of their nonsense about what the game should be doing. Oh, the game was taken away from the women in the 70s, 80s, is the responsibility of the men. Well, you can have the 70s and 80s back. Those years were full of hooligans and no money. Right? The reality of it is that the women's game is a massive opportunity, and the big thing that I felt was when I was around a lot of investor committees over the last couple of years looking at football, they were all talking about buying women's football teams, separating them from the men's team and giving them an opportunity to be successful. The challenge for that now is that Chelsea have already rinsed all the value out by creating this opportunity to sell a women's team for 200 million quid to subsidise their PSR on the men's side. Look, I think there was huge growth opportunities in the women's game. There's still lots of need for investment in quality, because I do think that the quality is not quite where it needs to be, but it is on the move, and I think it's a great thing. And you see all of these families, all of these kids, and the atmosphere that's created around women's football, and I think there's a lot of positives to it.
I think the big news over the weekend, and look, loads of stuff happened over the weekend, but the big news is that Morgan Gibbs-White stays as a Nottingham Forest player for now. He did a pitchside interview with the Nottingham Forest owner, Marinakis, which I thought was just viral. Honestly, it was incredible content. If you haven't seen it, please do. Let's listen to said interview, or a portion of it. This is what Morgan Gibbs-White had to say about renewing his contract at Nottingham Forest.
I'm delighted, so thank you to Mr. Marinakis for believing in me. I feel like we've been on a roller coaster of a journey, but I've felt the love instantly from the very first moment I stepped into the doors. We've had difficult times, but we've had a lot of highs, and last year was really, really exciting. We got to showcase what we're about and what we're trying to build as a team, and I feel like Mr. Marinakis is the base of that. So I was delighted to sign.
So ultimately, as much as people have made a bit of a joke out of that interview, Nottingham Forest fans will be happy because their star man stays. And there was a feeling that this Nottingham Forest side was starting to be broken up, with Elanga going and other players being removed. You've worked alongside Marinakis, so you know the man very well. He is a character.
Yeah, he is. So why he was actually standing there when they were interviewing the player, I don't know, but
just to make sure he said everything correct.
I think that's probably absolutely true. But you don't argue with Marinakis. You just decide that have a conversation with him, and then he's going to say he's right, and that will be it. So Gibbs-White stays after what seemed something rather prolonged going on. Tottenham Hotspur had seen this clause, or heard about the clause, or was told about the clause,
which happens.
Which of course it happens in the game. It's not new in football, absolutely not. But I think that there's an element of losing a couple of players. Elanga, as Simon mentioned off air here, he leaves the football club. You don't really want to be where would Nottingham Forest go with two of the very, very finest players leaving the football club? But Marinakis has won, and Gibbs-White stays. It seems just an ounce of it was suggested rather reluctantly there, but even so, he is. That'll still be good news for Forest, and he's a very popular player. And the reason he's very popular is because he's played very well at the club. Done really well.
Maybe more than just an ounce, I think. What was interesting at the end of that interview, which we didn't show, is Marinakis said, at the end of the day, we always win.
Sure, and good for him for saying it. I actually quite like the idea of him stood there, because there's many a time I've sat with players or with managers and agreed something, and then watched them go into a press conference, and I said, "That's not what I said for you to say." I remember Steve Bruce saying, I'm going to stay at Palace, and someone asked him, "Are you happy at Palace?" Well, I'm the Crystal Palace manager until someone tells me something different. That's not what we discussed, Brucey. We discussed that you were. Anyway, the fact that he stood there and intimidated the hell out of the player, I think actually controlled the narrative. Look, I would imagine, Marinakis is a strong character, like him or loathe him, and some of the things I think about him I'm quite impressed with him. Other things I'm not so impressed with him about. I think bringing Clattenburg in and somebody's behaviour, I think is a little uncouth at times, and the Clattenburg experiment about, the idea that referees were all picking on Nottingham Forest, I think was slightly ludicrous. But he means what he says, and he's a strong character. And I would suspect that splattergunning everybody about the idea that he was going to take people left, right and centre over to Morgan Gibbs-White, whether it was the agent, whether people had said things they shouldn't say, David Manasseh, or whether it was other things that were going on, whether Spurs had done something they shouldn't have done. I would imagine there's a very strong motivation inside Nottingham Forest that if Elanga went, Gibbs-White wasn't gonna, and it might have been the other way around. It might have been a Gibbs-White. They might have been prepared to let Gibbs-White go, but the Elanga deal came in the way, and a whole raft of other complications come out as a result of that, which changed the direction of travel. And Marinakis, I believe, is one of those sort of characters that if he feels personally slighted, forget about it.
Yeah, but if the clause has been met, doesn't it show a lack of ambition on Morgan Gibbs-White's sort of own self not to go to? Look, Nottingham Forest are a massive club, but Tottenham are playing in the Champions League. If you're Morgan Gibbs-White.
But why should it always be a lack of ambition if somebody doesn't move to a football club?
No, move to a bigger club.
We have this sort of argument all the time. It's been down the years. Somebody stays at a football club. He lacks ambition. Somebody moves to another football club outside his contract. He's absolutely. Yeah. So it's one or the other. From that little interview, and I'm only gleaning some my own thoughts from it there. It looks as if Gibbs-White had a hand tied behind his back when he was doing the interview. But it's fine. Marinakis has got his way, and let's be fair, regardless of what I think or he thinks of me and I think of him, doesn't matter. Without Marinakis, Nottingham Forest would not be in this position.
Absolutely.
They would not be in this position. As simple as that. There, he's put money into the football club
and
has driven the football club. So that's where that's exactly what's happened. And you do know the Forest fans had a great season last year. Disappointment towards the end, not getting into the proper European competitions, and but even so, still that there would be massive disappointment around the City ground if they lost both.
But this
of those
isn't about
players.
lack of ambition as well. You've got to factor in the nuance. There's a full court press on this player. The fact that he went after people and said, "Hang on a second, there's 3 people that knew about this clause in this contract, and one of them wasn't Spurs, right? So." By the way, it's either you, your agent, or me. And it ain't me, so it's one of you 2 guys, right? So you're going to get some of this. So I would imagine that Gibbs-White got his life told to him a little bit, and so did his agent.
And an increase in wages.
And an increase in wages. And an increase in wages. And we'll see. We'll see if Nottingham Forest win everything. We'll see if they get in the Europa League. We'll see if he's complied with all the obligations upon him, which he didn't, in terms of putting it in a blind trust. And the laughable idea that he can put it in a blind trust, because who funds Nottingham Forest? Who funds Nottingham Forest? If Marinakis puts all his shares in a blind trust, who's going to write this? Does anyone actually believe that Marinakis in his shares in a blind trust means he doesn't run Nottingham Forest?
Yeah. No, I think we saw from that interview he runs Nottingham Forest. What does it mean for release clauses then? Because Spurs have hit a release clause and they haven't got the player.
Depends how you operate.
Absolutely. That's exactly right.
How so?
Yeah.
You can't, first of all, you're bound by confidentiality. And a release clause now is nothing but an opportunity for that vile species, the agent, to get in between and start gossiping about.
So there's no point in having a release clause then?
Well, but there is if you conduct yourself properly. And ultimately, if you do things properly. And at the same time, release clauses are not just, it's a release clause, there's caveats attached to them. There's payment terms, there's the club that's buying them, because there's conditions attached to which kind of club buys you. If a legacy club buys you, a Champions League winning side club or a Premier League side wins you, there's conditions upon it that can actually raise the fee. There's also about how you get paid. You don't get paid when they feel like it, you get paid bang on the nail. So it's not just a case of pass, go and collect 200 quid. There are still some caveats, right?
Confidentiality in football, do me a favour.
I know, but at least make them work hard. Make them work hard.
Do me a favour.
What does it mean for Spurs, Martin? Obviously, look, new manager.
That'll be disappointing. That'll be really disappointing.
They had Morgan Gibbs-White.
Yeah, I bet they thought they had him, and I thought that they could circumvent all those particular problems that might have existed, and obviously it didn't happen. and therefore they'll have to go searching again. Yeah, it's that would be a blow to the new manager coming in.
What it means also, it's an interesting thing, and Martin's right, because I agree with him, the two biggest commodities in football are gossip and money, right? They're the two biggest commodities. The thing is now you've got new types of owners. And these type of owners, this is the reason why multi-club ownership exists, because they'll challenge the legality of the UEFAs of the world saying you can't own more than one club. That's why multi-club ownership exists, because when you're dealing with the Sheikh Mansours of the world or whoever else it is who wants to have more than one club, they've got more money than the establishment. So they're going to go, hang on a second, your legal rules don't stand up. APT doesn't stand up. Associated Party transactions don't stand up. That's why Man City drove a bus through it. So the reasons why confidentiality and people like Marinakis can actually change the outcome as opposed to accept the football orthodoxies, because they go, no, I'm not having it, and I've got the ability and the money and the wherewithal to turn your lights out. Yeah. So have a go, son. That's the change of ownership. That's what football's now become. Bigger, stronger, more influential people, nation states that no longer decide that the silly little rules that football once had apply to them.
Arsenal finally getting their hands on a number 9. They've completed the signing of Viktor Gyökeres for a deal worth up to £64 million, 73 million euros on a 5-year contract. He comes having absolutely dominated the Portuguese league. 97 goals in 102 games. Bear in mind, I think 6 or 7 of those goals were in the Champions League as well. So for those that are saying he only scores in Weeks League, he doesn't. He scores in the Champions League as well. Martin, I'll come to you on this one. They've got their man. This is it, right? They've been desperate for a number 9. Arsenal fans have been crying out for a number 9. There is no excuse anymore then. This is it, right? This was the missing piece of the puzzle for Arsenal.
No, there shouldn't be now. This is it. Yeah, this is exactly what they've been looking for. And they've got a number of players in at the football club, spent a lot of money, and now this is it. No excuses this time.
Yeah. I guess the question is, I said it there, right? 97 goals in 102 games.
Yeah, it's remarkable.
But the asterisk is it is in the Portuguese league, and we've seen strikers come over. Darwin Núñez scored bucket loads, and he didn't really come and light up the ball.
I think you can compare and contrast. You can do all of those particular things. He scored goals. Yeah. He scored goals in the league, and it looks as if he's improved from his time in the Championship. And Arsenal bought him because he has scored a lot of goals. This is the point. And whatever you say about the Portuguese league, it might not be the Premier League, but it's still you've got some decent players playing in it, and so it's all now. It's a big one for them, because he's come in there. He's wearing the number 14 shirt as well too. Not that doesn't really matter if Thierry Henry wore it or not, but he's coming in now. A lot of expectation on top of him, and it's up to him to deliver, and it's up to Arsenal to deliver as well.
He's almost got to deliver straight away, isn't he?
Well, first and foremost, the money side of things is when you look at players that are being bought and the amount of money they're being bought for, I hate to hear myself say it's not a huge amount of money. And then the second side of the thing is...
That's not a huge amount of money.
60 million quid for a centre forward. There was
today's market.
No, I agree.
In today's market,
60 million quid is as rare. Centre forwards are as rare as rocking horse, right?
Yeah.
They are a very difficult breed to get. The second thing is will he be the panacea? I don't know, because Arsenal play a certain way, and one of the things that might change is that Arsenal might... Now, we talk about Arsenal's frailties last year and the loss of certain strikers, and once upon a time I used to call Havertz a tax write-off because I couldn't work out exactly what he was. Right? But the fact of the matter is Arsenal scored 82 goals with Havertz in the side during a calendar year about a year ago. Now, they play a certain way, and they might lose something by playing a different way. So it's not a given that they're just going to march to a better outcome. It's going to remove some of the barriers to entry around the observations about why hasn't he bought a centre forward, and also maybe bring up his shelf life. I'm talking about Arteta. Yeah. Because you go by Zubimendi, you go by Gyökeres, that potentially are two solutions to problems that you might have had, with the departing of the strangely conflicted party right now, and all that goes with that. And you've got a situation now with people suggesting there's very few excuses. Arteta won't have as many reasons to explain why Arsenal don't win anything next year if they don't win anything. But I don't think it's going to be a gimme that all of a sudden Arsenal, that play a certain way, that use forwards in a certain respect, all of a sudden go more direct with a centre forward. Let's see what their wingers do, see how many good balls they put in, see what kind of player he is. Is he an 18-yard box merchant, Martin?
Well, he's a strong player, very, very strong indeed, and he looks as if he's got stronger. But it's a wee bit in terms of Manchester City. Manchester City had gone and sweeping all before them. Then they take on a centre forward, Allen, which I thought absolutely would have taken him, because you can play in a number of ways. Now, I suppose I was probably expecting them to go a wee bit longer at times, but actually he seemed as if he was being starved out of the game I don't actually believe that, but that's the general view that he was starting.
That's the way it looks, yeah.
It's the way it looks. But, you would have Haaland all day long. And to me, it was never a risk because he scored goals. He's very, very strong. He's powerful as well. So,
do you think he's the missing piece? I mean, the teams that you played, when you played at Forest, it was a beautiful team. Was it all about the goals that Woodcock or Birtles or Wiv scored, or was it about the composition of the team that enabled them to be in a position where they scored those goals?
I think it's about the composition of the side, absolutely. And will Arsenal be able to create chances? Of course they are. But they're expecting him to be on the end of most of these things. That's the point. But can he play outside it? It looks as if, when he picks it up at times and he runs, it looks as if he's got a fair bit of physical presence. Now, it's getting back to the point, what else is around at this minute? You're taking him, I agree with Simon, I don't think that 65 million, if that's the case, is an awful lot of money. There's players who have cost a lot more who have not delivered in the Premier League. So it's not too bad. But they did need somebody who has actually scored some goals and scored them in the last couple of seasons. In the last couple of seasons, pretty regularly. Yeah. Now, forget about what he did at Brighton and what he did elsewhere, Swansea and things like this here. That's in the past. He's 27 years of age now. His career's now in front of him with a really, really talented team.
Be interesting to see. I mean, he will be full of beans and full of confidence because ultimately to have scored the amount of goals that he's scored, footballers have to believe in themselves just for a start. Centre forwards perhaps even more so, and alongside goalkeepers. But the reality of it is that he knows where the back of the net. He'll go into that side expecting to score goals, which is half the battle. Yeah. Now, if he doesn't score goals from the outset, and Arsenal don't hit the ground running as people expect them to, we'll see how broad his shoulders are. But there was no backward about coming forward. He was leaving that football club and making clear to those that he worked for that he was going. Yeah. So he backs himself and got tickets on himself. So it'll be interesting to see if he delivers outcomes, and it'll be, I think, good for the Premier League.
What's interesting about this is Edu, obviously former sporting director at Arsenal, looked at him as a second-tier striker. So maybe didn't rate him as much as the new sporting director Berta has come in. So obviously there's this committee now, isn't it? Decides what players come in.
That's a judgment.
Who makes the judgment? Who makes the final judgment?
Well, that's a very, very good point at this minute, because I that's a really good point, because I assume there's some sort of committee meeting now that takes place way back years ago.
Wouldn't it be a style of play issue as well? Wouldn't it? I mean, the committee would be around a series of things, and let me fly this past you. The money that they're buying the player for, the wages of the player, but surely the style of play, the manager will be right in the middle of this conversation. The style of play. If he doesn't want a big up front centre forward, then they wouldn't be buying one from, would they?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But it's getting back to the point. Edu had a judgment on the player. He may or may not, but he may still be proved right. You never know. But it's someone else has stepped in, and that's all right. If the manager who will have some say in proceedings thinks, listen here, I'm going with what you say, we'll go with this here. That's fine.
Did you like the signing? Did you like the signing of Havertz as a centre forward? Did you like that signing?
I thought I at the time I thought it was really misplaced.
Yeah.
I couldn't see it really working, and for quite some considerable time it wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't working. Then he found a bit of confidence. He scored a late goal down at Brentford. I happened to be at the game as well too, and it's funny, just a goal, just giving you a bit of confidence, and in fact, I think towards the end they actually missed him a little bit.
Yeah. So what happens with Havertz now then?
Well, Havertz will feel himself. He can play in a number of positions. He won't. He can drop back in.
Jack of all trades.
Well, I think we all think round here that we didn't think that he was actually an out and out centre forward. May still not even be. But okay, can he play? Can he play further back? Absolutely, he can, and he'll have confidence about himself as well. Thinking, I'll get back in here again, no problem.
Yeah, he's gone a bit physically bigger as well. It's interesting though. Madueke's come to the club. Obviously, Madueke's come.
Yeah,
he's going to play on the left potentially. Saka on the right. It's almost as though they decided we need to whip those balls in. Yeah, we're going to play a different style of football now, so of getting those balls in quickly.
And it's only from what I've seen, and I don't know. Madueke looks as if he is actually more comfortable playing in Saka's position.
Yeah,
I think he is actually one of those players who likes to take people on, shimmy outside, and come inside and have a shot at left foot. Well, he's not going to take Saka's position, and absolutely not.
It's going to give Arsenal options and ability to change, and it'll also give them a better opportunity to assault Europe even better, even though they went to the semi-finals of the European Cup last year, because they've got to move forward. Irrespective of getting to a European Cup semi-final, that they'll be able to hide behind as progress. They regressed in the league last year. They didn't progress in the league, and one would have expected that, given that there was a situation of Man City's decline. Liverpool came out of the ether, and Liverpool were great, but they were steady, Liverpool. They weren't phenomenal in terms of what the rock and roll stuff that Jurgen Klopp produced. So Arsenal, in my view, snatched defeat from the jaws of victory with potential opportunity. And that might have been because they didn't delve into the transfer market in January. But I think they were already labouring by that time anyway. So they need a season of progression and not, we had a successful European campaign. At the end of the season, you won bugger all. And that really is something they probably have to address, unless the message from the boardroom is, you keep on sticking us in the top four, we're as happy as sandboys.
Okay, so with Norgard, Zubimendi, Gyökeres, Madueke, is enough to win the league? Should Arsenal win the league? Should there be favourites to win it?
Oh, they should go very, very close. Yeah, but Liverpool have also spent some money as well too, so they'll try and stay strong. And there's this argument of why change things. Tragically, they've lost a player, and they need replacements in the side. Some of the players, Nuno's not really come up to it. Although you always feel as if he's just a step away from doing it. We've been saying that for ages. It looks as if that the other lad is going to go to Bayern Munich. So they need a few players in. Absolutely, no. This is the best time to strengthen, as Brian Clough would always say. Yes, young man, best time to strengthen is when you're winning.
And that's what Liverpool are doing. It is massive though, isn't it? This transfer window for Liverpool. I mean, if they do secure the services, I already thought that Liverpool have had a fantastic window, the likes of Wirtz coming and Frimpong and Gyökeres, but if they do secure Alexander Isak, you almost feel like you could wrap the transfer league title and send it to them already. It looks so impressive.
Well, you just mentioned earlier there that Arsenal should win the title or should go close.
I'm just putting pressure on Arsenal fans.
Right, okay, yeah. That would be a big signing of it if they make it.
You're
a long way to go yet. Yeah. Newcastle will be desperately unhappy about that if it goes through. Isak looks as if he's making noises, some waves anyway, some noises and stuff like this. Yeah, that doesn't help greatly, I must admit. I think Eddie Howe was saying that he was hopeful. Sorry, he was confident about him staying at the football club, but one's never sure.
I always love people that have a London accent that support Liverpool. Eddie, I
can put the Scouse accent on.
I was interested. I mean, I do feel sorry for Newcastle to some extent, but I also feel there's a degree of irony about the irritation that's coming out of Isak leaving potentially to Liverpool, and the idea that it's PSR based. It's not PSR based. He wants to go to a bigger club, and the irony of it is saying that it's not fair to us. But it was okay when you took Anthony Gordon from Everton. When Everton were in financial trouble. You forget that one, do you? Oh, okay, right. Look, I mean, will he go? I think there's a possibility it's more about the money that he's getting at Newcastle. And they're suggesting that, that perhaps Paul Mitchell would turn around and said that he was entitled to it or shouldn't be given a pay rise. There's an argument to say he shouldn't be given a pay rise. He's got a 3-year contract. Nobody broke his arm off at the wrist and made him sign the contract, did they? He signed a contract for whatever money he's on. There was another argument saying if that's the market value for the best striker in the country, and there's an argument that he is.
That's the biggest argument, isn't it?
Sure, but if you've signed a deal, and if he broke his leg, would Newcastle say, well, you broke your leg, we haven't got to pay you that money because you can't play? They wouldn't, would they? They'd say, ultimately, this is the reality of the contract that we signed, we'll stick to our side of things.
Yeah, this is an owner of a football club.
I just realised what's happening.
But I agree with you. I absolutely agree. You can only go, it seems to go in the player's direction all the time. He signs a 5-year deal, he's 2 years into it, he's playing splendidly. Of course the agent's going to be in on top of it. It's either listen, I'm going to go to a better club, or I'm going to ask for more money.
All right, Manchester United are in America playing football, played against West Ham. Ruben Amorim still downplaying what the expectations will be this season. Let's hear from the Manchester United manager.
I think we need to remind ourselves how special it is to be in Manchester United. That is my feeling. Is the best club in the world. It should be for everyone that is on the pitch with our club. So I really like that feeling, and I really like to be in the group that is healthy. And we are going to suffer. We have problems, but that feeling of bonding from everybody, from the staff, from the players, with the technical staff is really important. I think it can help us to win some games that we are not performing so well, but something happened because the spirit is positive.
What he did say as well in that piece, he said that United will suffer again this season. If I'm a United fan, I mean, I guess you can sort of temper expectations, but you don't want to hear that.
Well, I don't think he said suffer again this season completely. I think he said suffer, and I think he meant just in aspects of games and certain moments of matches. If he's continuing to say suffer this season again, that wouldn't be sending out a fantastic message. You know, they bought a couple of players that they need wholesale changes in the team, I must admit. But overall, I'm not so sure that that's what he said. Maybe I've got that wrong. Yeah. But my interpretation of listening to that little bit was, there'll be moments.
There'll be some games where we struggle, which is honest.
And he thinks that the team that they have around them now can, in instances, overcome that. You know, matches that I think. My interpretation is that he thinks he can win some games this season that last season they couldn't do. I might have got that totally wrong.
I think that's absolutely right. I think he's also attacking the culture of people that have played for the football club, forgetting who they've played for, because they are playing for arguably the biggest team in world football, or once upon a time was. I do find myself having difficulty with certain dialect that creeps into the common speak in football, which is suffer. Suffer is going to a food bank having no money. Suffering in a football match is trying to overcome adversity. So it seems to have crept into the dialogue these days. I think what he's saying is absolutely right, and because he's saying it, and because he's spent the last 7 months seemingly saying things that I think probably are not the most helpful about trying to rebuild Man United. That the moment he says it again, albeit contextually with nuance, pick it up. It's going to be picked up. I took the fact that Man United are building a culture, which means when they do have difficulties in games, they're more likely to win these games than they would have done a year ago. And I think there's more positive in that than people are allowing the oxygen around what he's saying to be interpreted properly.
Martin, I think last season surprised everyone. No one would have expected United, especially the United that we all grew up watching, to be anywhere near where they were last season. What can they expect? And I say they as United fans this season. Like, is top 10 a thumbs up for how bad last season was?
I suppose it would be, really. But the top 10, even you've had all of close season to digest it. You buy a couple of players and you think that that'll give you a little bit going forward anyway. In terms of Cunha, he's definitely a quality player. You definitely need other people in the side. Will Manchester United, with their current team at this minute, will they be in the top 4? I think that would be a major surprise to me. I think there would have to be a bigger overhaul than there's taking place at this minute. That's my view. They might get surprising. Is that good enough for Manchester United? The Manchester, not really.
Can that centre forward do anything, Martin?
Which one?
Hoyland.
I must admit, he's been a major disappointment. You're prepared because he was a bit young, price tag, all of those particular things. You thought, well, listen, give him a little bit of time, but really, whether it's confidence or whether it's lack of confidence, it's he looks.
Is he hiding now? Is he looking like he wants to be in a position?
He looks really ordinary. Yeah. Really ordinary, and he will have to do a massive improvement if he is going to lead Manchester United to a decent position.
Yeah, there's a lot of players that potentially want to leave the club as well. Ruben Amorim spoke after the game against West Ham and said he won't sell unwanted players for cheap.
There are different reasons for the players. Some players have to find a new place to have more space in the team. Other players clearly show that they want a new challenge and they want new teams. So we are just allowing to these players to have time to think and to decide. If you reach a point that they have to join the team, they will join the team because they are our players. And I know for a fact that Omar and Jason and the club have a number for these players. If they don't reach that players, they will be Manchester United players. No doubts about that.
How do you integrate players back into the club that clearly don't want to be at the club? I mean, you would have experienced something maybe similar to this. I mean, Garnacho doesn't want to be there. I think that's clear. Jadon Sancho doesn't want to be there. You're not going to get a return on investment on Jadon Sancho. Yeah. So the number that he said they want, they're just not going to get that for Jadon.
Yeah, they won't. And also, I think if you are, I've learned this from experience, I think if you say that a player is not going to play for you anymore, you want to make sure that he's out the door the following morning. You can't have him hanging around then if that's the case, because you're backtracking then. Yeah. And I think that some of those players will have really irritated him. There's no question about it. But absolutely. And you think to yourself, well, listen, the the opportunity to get rid of them, well, do so. But at the end of it all, you might have to call them back in again at some stage. So please, whatever you do, but my advice to any young manager coming into the game is don't say to the player he'll never play again unless he's out the door the following morning.
So I mean, is it?
I mean, they can get. You've got to qualify what you're talking about. Return on investment. Are you talking about a profit on the transaction? Are you talking about a balance sheet exercise? Or are you talking about cash? Because at this moment in time, they paid 73 million quid for Jadon Sancho 4 years ago. Yeah. They put him on a 5-year contract. He's depreciating at £14 million season. He's sitting on their balance sheet at 14 million quid. If they sell him for 20 million quid, they can book a £6 million profit. So they can achieve balance sheet outcomes. Now, whether they want their cash back,
that's an interesting way of looking at it. So I just looked at it at the income.
That's why I like him on it.
I looked at the money they bought for him. That's what I'm
the same. I'm exactly the same. And strangely enough, as a manager, I'd been told by owners that's what you paid for them. That's what we want to get back again.
You will do. But when you're in a situation like when we're talking about the scale of Man United, obviously we know.
I wish I had invented that word amortization or something to get you away by.
It's been around for a time.
I know it has.
Both ways as well.
I know it has.
But also,
you would know with all the managers you had.
I did indeed. Yes,
brilliant.
I helped them all on their way.
Yeah.
One way or another.
Some of your interim managers stayed longer than the managers you had.
You like working for me. Don't worry about it. But the notion that Sancho, because obviously we've got the situation when we know Man United was nearly running out of money, so of course they want to try and maximise the money they got, because Jim Ratcliffe told us that Man United were going to run out of money despite the balance sheet, their cash reserves and their New York Stock Exchange position being completely different to what Jim Ratcliffe told us. So you might be right, they might need to get the returns on these situations. But I think Amorim spoke well. I think he speaks sensibly in that situation, and because he's made a rod for his back, he knows and I know that once someone forms an opinion of you, the narrative gets seeded. It's like the old Mark Twain expression, a lie's halfway around the world while the truth still getting his boots on, right? And the fact of the matter is that you've got a situation where people now think that everything Ruben Amorim says is negative, when actually what he's saying is common sense. The club's got a certain price, the players need to understand they're playing for Man United, and they will play for Man United the way we want them to. And I think there's nothing controversial about what he's saying. But what he can't say and what he won't say is we're going to be a well-beating team next year, because they're not going to do a 180-degree turn, are they?
Yeah. He's a good manager. Well, at least his previous job told us he's a good manager. I almost watched him.
A moment ago, you were questioning the credentials of Viktor Gyökeres kicking footballs around in Portugal and scoring goals over there. Now you're establishing the validity of
I agree.
I think kicking footballs is different.
I'm with Jordan in this one, man. Honestly, you're right. Yeah, no. This is my first time I've met you, and I was liking you right up until the last 10 minutes.
In terms of the job, is it too big for him?
The job?
Yeah. In terms of where, like you just said, Man United need a complete overhaul.
Yeah.
And as much as that's true, I don't think fans are going to accept the time it takes for them to get back to where they need to get back to.
No, that's right.
Overhaul.
No, listen, only time will tell whether he can improve Manchester United. He should be able to do it. I think he is a good man.
Did we see anything last season?
Pardon?
Did we see anything last season?
No, we didn't see a great deal. My only point about it is this. If you have come into the football club and you've definitely got principles, we've always said this about the old principles thing, but if you have a way of playing and you're pushing players into a type of game because that's the positions that you want them to play in, even though they might feel uncomfortable in that there, I think you've got to look at it again and say, well, listen here, I mean, that's not really working, and results would suggest that wasn't really working. Therefore, I have to backtrack it. I either wait until I get the players in round the world that can fit into the way that I want them to play, or you actually, you feel as if, I can change a little bit. Some players that I have at the football club not really getting into what I want them to do. Maybe I just get them back into.
And your brethren, because the idea that you get wedded to an ideology, what you're talking about is the pragmatic solution to a conundrum which enables you to manage the situation in the short term and to get what you want in the longer term.
Absolutely.
Right? But does that mean that managers now are so wedded to ideologies that they've lost that ability to be pragmatic?
That would concern me. Yeah. It absolutely would concern me. No, there's no. Again, I get back to the point. There's nothing wrong with having a method of play that you believe that's the case.
There's a time frame as to when it doesn't work.
That's right. Results dictate that. Absolutely. And if you continue to lose matches, then you've got to think about it. You know, you've got to actually put yourself in a dark room and think to yourself, well, this isn't actually working. Maybe I'll transfer my thoughts.
Or just follow Vincent Kompany's logic, which is take a team up, get them relegated, and get one of the biggest jobs in football.
Yeah. No comment from everyone. Final one on Amorim. He spoke about young Kobbie Mainoo, who burst onto the scene and was fantastic. Got into the England squad. All of a sudden, he said he has to quicken his tempo in order to be a starter. What does that mean? Managerial spiel. What does that mean? Quicken his tempo.
Move the ball faster.
Oh, I think that's probably what it is. Yes, I wouldn't give up on him. Believe it or not, if I'm a manager stepping in here, I wouldn't give up on him at all, because he is. I think he's a proper player. It looks, because he's now not getting a regular spot, and certainly in terms of starting, as if he has regressed a little bit in that
sense.
He know his
job? Because Souness was always saying to me, he doesn't know his job.
Kobbie doesn't know his job.
He doesn't know his job.
Well, interestingly. No, that also, listen, I'm taking his side here in this here. He has had a number of managers at this minute who might be telling him to do certain things, and that might be going, not necessarily against what he does, because football shouldn't be that complicated at the end of. But if you've got to step in, just let's say Amorim's telling him to do something that Ten Hag almost completely the opposite. I think you've got to get a young age. I would not give up on it. He's got talent. There's no question about it. If that's the case, and Amorim's working with him on a day-to-day basis, if quickening the tempo was up, no short words, well, do it. Do it. Listen, if this is going to get me into the team, and this is what the manager is saying to me, I'm going to do that.
Yes or no? Do Man United make top 8 next season?
Top 8? Yeah. Or went from top 10 now to top 8? Top 8. Well, yeah, top 8. They should do it, because there's quite a number of average teams playing in the Premier League. Yeah, I'll go top 8.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, all right.